What's going on, everybody? This is Greg Fowler coming at you live for another episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm super excited for this one, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial. Essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and feature titan for today, JP Spears. JP,
thank you.
Thanks so much. It's an honor to have you on the show. Everybody is super excited in anticipation to really just to dive into you as a man, as a professional, really get to know you a little bit better.
Great.
So if you're right, let's just dive in.
All right, I'm ready.
So let's just start with telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of color there. But I am, again, JP Spears.
Sure.
I am new managing and partial owner broker of Berkshire, Hathaway, Rocky Mountain Realtors here in Colorado Springs.
Love it.
So I have achieved the level in which most dream of, and I'm grateful.
Love it.
I come from a very, very intense past, as oftentimes many people do. And so I have, for example, I grew up in a very tough household and very disruptive, and wound up basically, to go a little bit further, wound up actually kind of on the street at some point.
Wow,
And from that, I really learned a lot. And I'll just quickly wrap up a little bit, or wrap up from the beginning,
Yeah,
a little bit of where this kind of started. Like, so when I was 16, my mom moved to Colorado from Kansas.
Okay.
I was a big boy because, of course, at 16, you know everything. And so I decided to stay behind. And actually, I wasn't quite 16 yet.
Uh-huh.
And so after a year of being on my own and going through quite a bit of diversity,
Sure.
I received a phone call from a real estate agent from Colorado, from Teller County. And she said, she says, your mother would like you closer to home, and I would like to come pick you up. So I received this call at a time in which I was really going through a rough point, because I'm now watching my friends go to school and surpass me, like high school and those types of things, and I'm seeing myself basically being left behind from the whole experience of being a kid. And so I agreed to it. She got in her Bronco and drove 590 miles to pick up a strange kid whom she had never met before.
Unreal.
On the way back, she described to me her life and the adversity she had gone through, and how real estate gave her such freedoms and ability to deal with her divorce and many things. I loved the lady. On the road trip, I truly fell in love with this lady as to who she was and the style and class in which she was given to herself. And so I never forgot it. You know, I started my life here and went through a tremendous amount of exploration, finally got into some high-end marketing, so I started doing marketing for some of the casinos, helped build some of the casinos up in Cripple Creek, for example. Started off jackhammering basements and doing all kinds of things, and then progressed into applying for a marketing position, which I was certainly not qualified for.
Wow. The honesty here, everybody.
Yep. And so we did marketing for CCRI, which is Colorado Casino Resorts Incorporated. We did the marketing for Blackhawk Central City, Cripple Creek in Las Vegas. And so the coupon books and like the Ramblin' Rose bus tours and those types of marketing things for the casinos is what our group basically designed, like all the art and all the coupons and discounts. And so I learned a lot from that. I learned a plethora of information that I would have never been given even by going to school at that time. I met a marketing guy that ran the marketing for JP McGill's, which was another casino up there.
Okay.
And he gave me so much information on how to market and started teaching me like publisher and different types of marketing things that I was not exactly familiar with.
Interesting.
Which led me to really fall in love with marketing and advertising and really understand the importance of those processes. And for your business and your branding and what those mean.
Sure.
So as I progressed through it, I just started finding myself a little bit more loving people, like love the interaction with people and understanding their needs and their wants, right? And so I eventually had to progress past that. I got a job in a bank, credit union here in Colorado Springs, and I worked there for a few years. learned a lot about banking, a lot about money, how money flows, the importance of money, the importance of using your skills. And I also learned a lot about taking an opportunity that is in front of you and the place in which you are. And I think describing that, I'll get more into that when we get into more on the real estate side of it.
Sure.
But I was able, if I needed a car loan, I didn't have to go through an application, underwriting, and then go to the board and then approve it, because credit unions are different than banks. And it has to go through these processes to get approved for a car loan or anything that they're going to work with you.
Sure.
As an employee, I just said, hey, I want to go buy a car, and they would say, go pick one out. And so I'd go pick a Mustang out, for example, and bought a brand new Mustang in 2000, and did some really cool stuff, right? And I realized the importance of paying attention to what you have an opportunity in front of you.
Okay, good point.
Right? And so, unfortunately, I fell very ill with Crohn's disease. Had been sick since I was 17, actually.
Okay.
But it had been progressing, and I learned from everybody all the wrong things to do, because, of course, they thought I had ulcers and everything, so I'm drinking milk, and I'm doing all kinds of things that I shouldn't do that actually made the condition worse. I had 6 major surgeries. A colostomy bag was attached.
JP.
A lot of intense medical stuff, in and out of hospitals, in and out of clinics, different specialists. Learned a lot about the fragile parts of life, right?
Okay. Yeah.
To include even one time where I pulled up to show a property once I did get my real estate license, and I remember the bag breaking and me going through this horrific experience and letting the people know, hey, just go take a tour on the property, walk around if you don't mind for a few minutes, and I'll be with you.
Wow.
And in that moment, that was where sweat's pouring down my face, and I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to get all this changed, because it's a lot of work changing the colostomy bag, just being honest. And so I finally got that under control, but that was a point in which I realized the importance of the fragile part of life, and maximizing your moment, and doing things that are pushing you outside your insecurities, outside your comfort zones, outside of everything that you felt fragile about, and taking it and just running with it, and pushing everything you can to be better at what you want.
Love it.
That for me was a significant thing. But going back a little bit to where I was when I started in real estate, I actually started off as an assistant.
Love it.
And I started off as an assistant to a lady, her name was Kathy.
Okay.
I was given an opportunity to start off as an assistant, but I was engaged. I was engaged with meeting the owner, which was Stuart Scott. At the time, had been in business for 36 years.
Wow.
A pro agent, classy, high style, elegant, high-end properties. As a matter of fact, 10 of us agents did more volume per agent than 100 RE/MAX agents.
That's crazy.
We literally were the high-end elite of Colorado Springs. We did mostly Broadmoor properties, but we did Kissy Camels, all the high-end stuff.
Okay.
And I come in as this young whippersnapper who has no experience, right? And again, stepping out of my threshold of comfort and my insecurities and going into a whole nother level of not just real estate, but elite real estate. And so in that quest and that journey, I'm grateful that Stuart did open his hand, and he gave me the olive branch.
Wow.
He said, I'm going to take a chance on you. I normally hire very tenured, very expert, very pro agents.
Sure.
And I'm going to let you learn. I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to help nurture that. So with that experience, I sold the lowest priced property I ever sold, which was $30,000, and the very highest priced property, which was $3.3 million.
Wow. The whole spectrum right there.
Right?
Truly.
Yep, and even in that, so, and the $3.3 million was in 2006, which at that time was the very highest price sell for the entire year on the MLS, the year in El Paso County. So there are agents that have been in business for 30 years in Colorado Springs that haven't sold a home over $1 million. And here I am in my 20s selling $1 million properties. That was because of me. That was my choice. That was me going in and deciding that I was not going to be afraid. I was not going to let my health condition slow me down. I was not going to let a lot of those dynamics affect me in a way which most people do, that would prevent me from being the very best at an industry, at something that I wanted to follow.
Wow.
When I got my real estate license, it was everything. It was a dream come true for me. It was everything that I'd ever really wanted, and it was inspiration from that agent that took her time to drive 590 miles to pick up a strange kid whom she'd never met.
JP.
Right?
Wow.
And does that not show you the sacrifice, or not sacrifice, but the commitment that realtors have to the community?
Agreed.
That you would meet a complete strange family whom you've never known before, see the need of a mother who was missing her son, and get in your vehicle at your own expense, your own time, and drive to another state to assist. And that is one of many things that realtors do.
Right.
Trust me, this is a beautiful story. It is wonderful to hear that a realtor would have done that for a family, because it brought us back together. And yes, my mom and I did grow from that point and became very close up until she passed 7 years ago. But those things changed my life.
Sure.
Those gave me the enrichment and the direction that I deserved from coming from such a rough past. I was given gifts from wherever they came from, but they were gifts. Now, I didn't have an astute, well-educated family to come learn from. We're often cases I've noticed where either people talk about old money. What does old money mean? Right? That means that somebody started the I don't know, Hershey's brand, and you've been getting the you know what I mean?
Right.
And there's like 7 generations of it. That's old money, right?
Yeah.
Or wells, like oil wells from back in the 1920s that are now still paying very prosperous per barrel.
Sure.
But I didn't. I came from a very adverse, very intense, very hard past. And so I had to take that, and I had to say, okay, well, am I going to live by the past, or am I going to live by the future, and I'm going to live now? And oftentimes people take the path of least resistance, right?
Right.
And they'll go down 2 roads. You've got either one to go down, or one or the other. The path of least resistance to say, okay, I'm gonna live a regular life. I'm gonna get a basic job. I'm gonna get somewhat of an education. I'm gonna get married as fast as I can and get divorced as fast as I even got there, right? Or I'm going to, and no offense to people who got married young, right? Some people last forever, but it's very difficult in today's economics and today's world. So I didn't. I took the harder road. I took the road that was intense, even worse than I had even imagined, going down and dealing with some of the things that I did to get where I am. What I did notice, though, is the more that I paid attention to great people, the more that I focused on the good side of people, right? You know, Stuart, all those people, the lady that picked the agent that picked me up. And you know what? Today I can't remember her name.
Wow.
Which is what's really sad. And for years I did remember her name, but then years kind of got by. And this is my 15th year in real estate.
Wow, 15 years.
My 15th year in real estate.
Wow, time flies.
I am grateful for the 15 years. I'm grateful for whatever it gives me. I have become a master of my craft. I am the elite now, considered the upper tier, right? And I've earned it. I've worked day in, day out, 7 days a week, answered the phone when nobody else was willing to, performed things, pressure washed old ladies' houses to sell their houses, right? I mean, did all the stuff that you do to connect with the community, to build a beautiful relationship. And in that, I'm very, very thankful, and to a point in which I cannot describe to you out there.
Sure.
You just really need to understand that real estate comes with some sincere complexity.
Right.
At all levels. You have to understand that real estate is a personal experience. That for a buyer or a seller, there are statistics that say that buying and selling a home can be as emotional as to losing somebody to death.
Wow.
It is so deep level for some people because it's the largest transaction in most cases that they will ever make, whether buying or selling. And so I say oftentimes to people, well, I picture myself on a stage, for example, when I'm engaging in a client, right?
Yeah.
And I say, okay, well, I'm going to perform, and I'm going to perform at its highest. So I'm going to imagine myself on the stage, and when the curtains open, the smile comes on. The show is about you, right?
Sure.
You're the buyer, you're the seller. I want to know everything about you. What makes you happy? What's your motivation? Why are you moving?
Right.
Do you have to sell, right? Maybe you haven't considered some of the other options, and if you haven't, then let's explore all options, right?
Yeah.
And let's look at all the levels of what makes you where you are today. Whether you're ambitious, you've just started a new family, you want to buy a home, or you want to get into investing, or you want to, or you just want to feel what it feels like to be a homeowner, right? Or you want to sell a home and this is your 5th home, and you know that these transitions are a normal pace for you and your family and moving, or you're like, I'm excited to get into making money, and my grandfather was investing. You hear these stories where my grandfather flipped homes and bought and sold, and it inspires the young, the youth, right?
Sure.
That's what's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And the internet has changed, right? So you've got technology now. Technology's changed everything to where things seem crisp and pretty and instant, right? Immediate. But life's not like that. Like in real estate, it takes years to become a master at your craft.
Well said.
It really does. You have to really take your time, and you have to commit to all the things that everybody else is not willing to commit to. And so there's a lot of new tools out there.
Sure.
Berkshire's launched a new thing with AdWorks, for example. AdWorks is a fabulous new marketing platform, but very expensive.
Sure.
And very, very scary for some new agents, right? I really have dove into giving back. So I've been a board of director for Pikes Peak Association of Realtors for 7 years. I just tenured out this last December. So 7 years of commitment to helping my fellow agents and their craft, right? And I wondered, okay, well, what kind of guy stands there and looks at the door when a new agent comes in and wants to see them as just as successful in their business as I have been in mine?
Wow.
Because that's exactly what you do when you get to a certain level,
right? And
when you realize that life has given you what you wanted. And so oftentimes,
what you've worked for.
What you've worked for.
Not to cut you off, not necessarily what you wanted, but what you also worked for.
What you've worked for. And in often cases, it's usually older people, right? Like the aging adult community. They're now wealthy.
Sure.
They've got everything they need. They've got their beautiful home and their high-end cars and their investments. And so they're like, okay, I want to give back now, right? And I've done it. I've been there. And so I want to give back. And it's not common to find younger people that have found themselves and found their core and what makes them passionately happy, and stable-minded enough to where they're like, okay, you know what? I have done it now. Like, I really want to see other people become successful.
Okay.
And it's not the thing of those who can't do teach.
Right.
Right. Right. It's at a point where you have hit an achievement in your success in your career, where you honestly feel like I've got so much power in me and so much to give that I can still perform my duties and make great money, right? Right. But yet I can still help other people and give back to them at the same time.
Okay, and I want to touch on that vein, JP, because I think the backstory to everybody out there really getting to know you a little bit deeper, where you're from, what drives you, what goes through, is the why question, right? I mean, JP, what is your why? I mean, what motivates you to do what you do to the level that you do it at?
Mine is because of my Crohn's disease.
Okay.
Honestly, it is.
All right.
Everybody has theirs. Okay, so
sure.
You may have, your grandfather was a real estate agent.
Sure.
You want to honor him, just like people in the military. My grandfather was, Navy, and I want to be in the Navy, right?
Right.
Real estate's very similar to that. People get into real estate because they're like, okay, my mom was a real estate agent, or I've been inspired by Selling New York on HGTV, right? Like.
There are people out there.
Yeah, right. Whatever it is, but that's their why. That's what drives them. They like, I want to be like that guy that works at that office and dresses beautifully. And
they're talking about this guy right here.
Right,
right. What's happening after everybody sees or hears this episode? He's right here.
Right. This is it. So I mean, there's so many dynamics that make people like, what's their why.
Sure.
Mine is the fact that I have to speak for a community of sick people.
Okay.
But not in a way of where it's like, oh, poor me.
No.
Help me because I'm sick. Like, you should use me because I'm sick.
Right.
But in a way of like, okay, there's two things that ill people have to confront. One, either they're not strong enough. Their health has overcome their ability to come out into an industry and perform at levels in which would rise them to the top, right?
Sure.
They're just so unhealthy with the condition that they just cannot perform.
Wow.
Or two, they don't understand that their illness, it's like my mom used to say, she goes, it's not a disease that you have, it's a dis-ease, right? And so my mom was a big inspiration to me.
Love that.
Because of her love, not because of the things that she did in her life, because she was very artistic, so she didn't hit like big. She wasn't a real estate agent or anything.
Sure.
She just was inspirational from her love, but like oftentimes we find that. But my why really came from knowing how fragile my life is, being in and out of the hospital, 6 major surgeries, a colostomy bag, seeing specialists all the time, continually, medicine, all the time, always dealing with some form of conditionally related experience, right? And realizing how short and how fragile all of our lives are.
Okay.
And saying, okay, well, if I'm going to sustain myself and never be on welfare, forms of welfare, or sustainability from the government funds somehow through tax or some kind of support on other people, like, if I'm going to be a man and self-reliant, or a woman, self-reliant and self-responsible, then I need to find something that belongs to me, right? Something that absolutely belongs to me, and that nobody else can take, and that makes money.
Sure.
And it sets me up for the future, and that I can enjoy and passionately have fun with. And so real estate for me, the why was simply because, one, a real estate agent got in her car and drove 590 miles and inspired me at a very young age. And two, a health condition pushed me to being in a hospital bed, looking at the Gazette at Classifieds, and looking at a listing and remembering that experience on that road trip back from the 590 miles to Colorado, and saying to myself, it's exactly what I want to be. I want to be a real estate agent, and I want to feel what it's like to have my own world.
Sure.
And real estate empowered me to do so. You can do anything, guys. You could do telemarketing. You could go get a job delivering pizzas, right? You can do anything you want in this world. But the fact of the matter is there's only so many positions and so many things you're going to be able to do in a period of life. As you get older, maybe you wanted to be a ballerina or a balletist or whatever. But I'm not a balletist, and I'm too old now to be one. So, you have a time limit. And when that time limit's gone, it's gone. Okay, and as you get older, the prosperity or the opportunity loss comes, right? So as you get older, people complain as they get older, nobody wants to hire them. You hear that in often cases. It's very unfortunate because you get experienced people that really know what they're doing as they get older, right? And some of them work harder than young people will ever work. But oftentimes they get overlooked because of their age, right?
Sure.
So you talk about, don't talk about age, religion, race, creed, all these things, because it hurts people's feelings, and it does. But you have to look at it. Age is a very important dynamic of your life to look at, and you can't deny it. You have to say, okay, I'm this old. What do I have in front of me left, right? Sure. What time do I have? And now that I have a condition, and maybe you do, or maybe someone you know,
right?
And you want to be their inspiration, or you want to be your own inspiration, you have to pull your bootstraps up and say, okay, I'm going to set myself up for prosperity, for happiness, and no matter what I do. I get to be fortunate enough to say now, well, as long as I behave, right?
Right.
Meaning I don't spend my money frivolously,
sure,
right? Or I don't overinvest and wind up going bankrupt and foreclosed on I've heard people foreclosing 400 properties before, right?
Wow.
As long as I get fortunate enough, as long as I've been given the insight by constantly practicing my craft, by constantly understanding the ebb and flow of real estate and understanding the dynamics of what can and can't happen based on history, based on what's happened before.
Right.
As long as I don't make the main mistakes that many people have made before, and I pay attention to that and cognitively be humble enough to recognize it, I may get lucky enough to actually set myself up for a very, very well-rounded retirement through real estate. I can tell you this, after 15 years of real estate and the commitment and the things that I have done, I can now step back and look and say, I think I'm pretty accomplished.
Yeah.
And now the future is in the palm of my hand. And now all I have to do is follow certain protocols and practices that I've learned over the years and nurture those things. And as long as I behave, then it'll pay off.
And I want to tap into that, JP, because this is such huge information already, and we're just getting started. I want to go into the, really tapping into those systems or that process and everything that you've had success with thus far and will continue to in the future. So this is the advisory question.
Okay.
It's a crowd pleaser. A lot of the viewers, the subscribers to this particular series, they want to know how the Titans are growing their business, what they've done in the past to really get to where they're at and continue to go. So if you could look back at your business thus far, these past 15 plus years, and pick or choose one or two things that you added to your business that took it from one level to the next.
You bet.
What's that look like for you?
Okay, well, there are two things that I recognized as core standards of real estate, guys.
Love it. Two.
Right.
He said two, everybody. Here
And
we go.
that's two, okay? And so you have to understand that when I evaluated these things, I was an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was an assistant for almost 2 years prior to getting my license and moving forward and becoming a broker. I sold my first property in 60 days, by the way.
Wow.
It was like a $134,000 property, and it had grass growing in the gutters. Okay, it was a total remodel. As a matter of fact,
I love the detail.
I have sold those family. I've now sold that family 5 properties between them and their family, their local family.
Okay.
And but there are two things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a database.
Okay.
Okay. Kathy, my mentor,
Mm-hmm.
who I started under Stuart Scott.
Sure.
She was a broker, had been in business 26 years. Stuart, 36 years, right?
Wow.
She had no database. She ran by the seat of her butt, which often case you guys do, and I hate to say it, but you do. 97% of you guys.
Hopefully
right?
not the viewers or the subscribers here. Not you guys, but
Right.
everybody else.
So the 3%, I mean the 97%, whichever way you are.
Yes.
Database, guys, that's the key. Okay, so Stuart managed his database for those many years. Each year he would send him a little CRM or not CRM, a little CMA,
Mm-hmm.
letting him know. So buyers that bought a home through him, he'd say, hey, your house is worth this. Congratulations. Remember when you bought your home 8 years ago? You've got a lot of equity. I hope you're enjoying it still. And if you ever need anything, I'm here for you, kind of thing, right? And then he would do things systematically throughout the years. We say that, 8 to 12 touches before somebody remembers things, right?
Sure.
So Stuart stayed on top of that for many, many years, guys, from all levels. And he started off at the low 2 and wound up being the premier boutique brokerage of Colorado Springs at one point in his career.
Wow.
Kathy Wade, my mentor. $6,000 a month on average is what she pulled.
Okay.
Stuart, $80,000. Kathy, $6,000.
Wow.
Stuart, many investment properties, those such things. Kathy, nothing. I think her house was probably fractionally paid off, but then she had a car paid off. But other than that, she was pretty much broke.
Okay.
Just unfortunately, but it's broke.
Ah, bummer.
So you look at those dynamics, just like one person. Kathy was elegant and stylish and
Mhm.
classy. Now, she didn't have filters, and sometimes she was a little brash,
Okay.
but she was a wonderful realtor. Stuart, very successful, very stylish, classy, was not as brash, but seriously a high performer and very powerful in his conversation, right?
Impeccable reputation.
Amazing man.
Yeah.
$80,000 a year net, $6,000 a year net. Totally different worlds,
Wow.
just by managing a database. So I oftentimes train people that databases are the most valuable tool in your real estate career, and it will be
Love it. Number one.
from the start.
Okay.
If you need help, you're welcome to email or call me, and I'll walk you through the damn thing.
Be careful saying that, JP. Everybody's going to be reaching out to you. Hey, his
Right.
contact information is going to be all linked up.
Right, yeah, so you
take
can.
him up on
and
it.
I really will. I'll walk you through it, guys. It took me years to refine my database and do it the right way. And there's
Wow.
just ways that you do it to set a priority, right, to individuals and how you set them in fact. And it's everybody has an answer for you, right? Everybody's like, oh, just do this and it'll work out.
Mhm.
But you really have to pick a path. And you really have to work that path. And a database is really the core foundation of a real estate agent's success.
Okay.
It's like building a house without a strong foundation, it will fail,
Well said.
right?
Yep.
And so the database, you can ask any pro, high-level agent, and they will tell you a database is the key element to their success,
Love it. Hopefully you wrote that down. Number one, database.
right?
Number two,
Number
JP.
2, you ready? Remember me talking about the credit union and buying the Mustang
Mhm.
and being able to buy, like I'm there in that moment, and I
Yeah.
have to go. Okay, so I'm in real estate, and I'm buying commercial buildings, I'm buying residential houses, I'm holding, flipping, selling, right? Commercial buildings, we have economic booms. You have to pay attention. You have to understand the ebb and flow of your business.
Right.
So our last economic boom was cannabis, right? So Colorado hit this huge cannabis thing, legalizing cannabis on a medical level in the early 2000s and on a recreational level in 2014 at a precedence of value which has been not seen in many moons in Colorado in terms of equity increase.
Wow.
We have seen properties increase and where you've sold a home 3 years ago increased by $200,000 because of lack of inventory.
Unreal.
We've seen from $12 a square foot, from $7, $8 to $12 a square foot on commercial buildings to $22 to $26 a square foot.
Oh.
I'm telling you guys, pay attention to these economic things. But I'm in real estate, so what can I do? I'm the front line, right?
Right.
So as long as you're ethical, honest, and moralistic, you probably could do a transaction that would belong to you without affecting the community in any negative way.
Wow.
Because that's something very important to remember, that you have a balance. You have a very fine line you have to walk. If you have a property for sale and I approach you as a realtor with a very powerful education behind me,
Sure.
I have to be able to give you the price which you deserve, right? That you would be happy with without abusing or taking my power to advantage.
Sure.
So that is a delicate process. So if you do get in investing, understand that it is a delicate line you walk, and you must do it with very strong ethics, because you do truly have to look after the other party, and they have to feel never that you have taken advantage of them.
Wow. Okay.
But that's the second.
Okay.
So invest in your own self. You're in the front line. Buy and sell real estate. So your database and real estate are your two things. That's where the guys make the money, guys.
I love it.
So in the 80s, wealthy people were buying properties for pennies on the dollar in foreclosure time.
Mm-hmm.
And they sat on those for 15 years before the market came back again, which, if you don't know, it's every 10, 12 to 15 years we go through a market change. And so we go flat for about 10 to 12 to 15 years, where the economy goes kind of crazy and in not a good way. And we sit for a 10 or 12 to 15 year. You can go back 50 years and see that the cycle is the same every 10, 12, 15 years.
Okay.
Those guys in the 80s that bought those foreclosures for pennies on the dollar cashed out in the late 90s and early 2000s is where they really cashed out, in the early 2000s. That's why we had, remember we had 2000, 2001, 2, and 3, and 4, and we were just booming. Houses were selling for crazy money. It was a 7% appreciation rate, so if you bought your home for $100,000 every year, you were gaining $7,000 in value. I mean, it was just crazy. And then, of course, we went through bidding wars and all those things, which was even more amazing. In that is where those guys bought those properties in the 80s, sold them in the late 90s and early 2000s, and made millions of dollars.
Love it.
Same thing in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, when the economy went bad. Investors, we had people from Asia, all over the world buying properties like in the basketfuls, and then here they are now selling them. And selling them for crazy amounts, where we put a property on the market, and within 24 hours, if it's under $300K, you probably have 14 different offers.
Wow.
I mean, in some cases, they have to actually set in the MLS where they won't even review the offers for a week out, so that they can accumulate a mass amount of them and discover which one would be the best fit for your client.
Unbelievable.
We're in a market in which makes real estate beautiful, but it will change.
Okay.
And when it does change, you better have nurtured that database. All those fabulous clients that you met, you were excited to meet and go have dinner with or lunch with or buy a Starbucks for, well, those guys are going to go through stress just like everybody else when it does change. And you better be there to remind them that you were there for them in good and just the same in bad.
I love that. I mean, hopefully you guys are really taking notes. JP, this is just chock full of so much good information, takeaways for everybody. This is huge, huge stuff. And again, please take this man up on reaching out, because he's just a wealth of knowledge. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit of that, because true expertise right here. JP, I want to shift gears just to dive a little bit deeper onto you as well. And this question is really the tricky part of this particular interview, but it literally opens everybody up to the audience to get to know you a little bit more on the personal side. You've been very open already, but I want to charge you with the challenge question.
Okay.
If you could look back at your life thus far and pick or choose a challenge that you dealt with, that you overcame, learning from, that you became stronger because of it, what's that look like for you?
Well, I think the thing that really, I think there's a multitude of things, and it's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
When you deal with somebody who's gone through a tremendous amount of life, right? Some people are lucky enough to be very guarded, and whether that's intentional, self-intentional, where they're just very protective of themselves and they don't want to go past boundaries,
Sure.
or luckily they just wound up in a very very frameworked kind of life where things were kind of set in a pattern for them already. They go to school, they maybe go to West Point, they go to Air Force Academy, they go, and they kind of structure themselves through this narrow path, right? Then you get a person like me who has really explored himself and really explored outside of those walls and outside of that framework.
Sure.
And in that, you deal with a lot of very exciting, adventurous stuff, but then you deal with a lot of very treacherous, very turmoil-based life experiences, right?
Okay.
And so then you become complex as an individual.
Well said.
And you look back and you say, okay, what made the changes in me, or like what are the things that made the most impacts on my life? I think tragedy is one of the things that most people, will bounce to first. The idea of, okay, my brother committed suicide when I was 17, he was 8, or I was 18, he was 17. When we were on the streets, put in foster care, deaths, losing, your grandpa, my mom, my best friends, like all these people have died.
Sure.
Grandmas, all the things that we lose, right? Those are the first thing I think people gravitate towards when they talk about,
challenges.
What are the challenges? What are the things that really made you, where you are today? And I think that those, yes, being as normal and intuitively being the base things that probably really impacted me to do big things, right? To show, to prove, to overcome, to say, okay, my brother killed himself at 17, I'm 18. I want to show you that life's worth living. I want to show you that you shouldn't have done that, that if I ever get to the other side, I'm going to wring your neck,
Right.
All that's natural, right? That's the natural thing that you want to say that. But I think what it is what really changed me is the fact that I truly do understand how fragile and how sensitive that my life is. And that I really, really want to make the very best of it. And when I go, whether that be next week, tonight, or 25 years from now, I really want to go with a smile on my face.
Okay.
I want to know that I did the very best to be a great man, or if I was a woman, to be a woman, to be honest with great integrity, to be forthright, to be caring about my community, about my world, about everything around me, and not in a kumbaya way.
No.
Right? No. Not in a let's hold hands and be, let's be hippies, right? and trust me, I love hippies sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
But in a really real, honest way that I truly want to live a life of goodness. That I want to live a life of bounty and fruitfulness from that goodness. And I think the better that I have become at this craft called real estate, right? And we are salesmen, right?
Sure.
People say, oh, no, I'm a service provider. And no, you're a professional salesman.
Right.
Okay, let's just be very clear. You're a professional salesman. You can say that I'm a service provider, I provide this, and I'm a caregiver, whatever you want to call yourself. But at the end of the day, sales is sales.
Right.
And so I want to be the best at it, right? People like me want to be the very best at it. So how do we do that? We pay attention. We pay attention to other people like us, like-minded. I have a statement that I'll share with you at some point here that I've created that comes from me. And so what I did is I dove into things. Like there's a podcast called GSD Mode, for example.
Okay.
It's called Get SHI done. Okay, so just look it up.
Yeah.
GSD Mode. Okay, I'll be polite and calm.
Go.
But on his podcast, he's intense, right?
Sure.
He is geared to bring in the best of the best, like you are, right? And really dive into what makes them different. And so, and what makes their business work, what makes them tick, why they do things, how they do things, what's important to them. Just like what you're doing is beautiful, like, right?
Thanks,
like,
JP.
I really appreciate the fact that people out there are doing what you're doing because we're giving back. We're giving back to you guys. We're giving you insight onto what, and yes, you're learning about me as a human, as a man, and what kind of created this this monster, right?
In a good way.
In a good way,
yes.
Right, a very good way. But on a realistic level, like people like us, like the wheel doesn't need to be reinvented. Like you can look at people that are really amazing, and you can say, what is it? What's making you tick? And you often say the pros will tell you, go have coffee with them, right? Call somebody that's at a high level and have coffee, go have lunch, see if you can get in a moment of their time to just ask them what made them, so you can get something from them. So over the years, I have really done that. I've refined myself to through elegance, through paying attention, and I'm able to share things now. Like I was explaining to you, speaking in adult colleges.
Yeah.
you know, and the 5-minute rule, for example. And I talked about the fact that, you know, you smoke a cigarette and it takes about 5 minutes to smoke a cigarette. And if you took that very time and focused on learning, whether via internet, through a book, through asking questions from anybody, like a teacher, anybody, if you took that 7 minutes every day, that 5 to 7 minutes, and you compounded that each day, you would find very quickly that your skill levels would be immense, right? Wow. So if you wanted to be a radio guy and be a radio host, or a TV person, an actress or actor, you know, wouldn't you want to take 5 minutes every day and learn how to be an actor and say, how do I do this, right? How do I engage? What do I start? Like, what's the scoop? Like, let me call some acting schools, and what does it cost? And do I need to take acting classes? I mean, take the time each day, 5 to 7 minutes. And so I did that. I spoke in adult colleges. I got a call from the dean. The dean tells me he received a $50 tip from a student who had taken one of my little my little things where I go in and talk to the adult college kids about why it's great that you're here, but what are you going to do after college, right? Sure. And so he received a $50 tip from a lady who wanted to go to college so she could start her business. She wanted to take Christian Christian sermons, English, transpose them into Spanish, and sell them. She sold a case, which was over $2,600, somewhere in there, to low-end areas in Mexico that don't have a lot of resources, but they wanted good messages, and they didn't have, I guess, whatever it is. But she made $2,500 or $2,600 on her first sale. She brought the $50 to the dean, which he then called me in turn to thank me for bringing that message. We don't know where we're going to. We don't know where we're going to inspire somebody. We don't know the word, the sentence, the paragraph, the emotion, the feeling, the touch. We don't know how that impacts a person for the rest of their life.
Well said.
Mine was the realtor that drove 590 miles to pick up a kid whom she'd never met. And Crohn's disease, obviously having a health condition. Yours may be something completely different. But you have to focus on people that can give you those skills and resources that can help you through those dynamics to where you understand more about who you really, really want to be. And maybe real estate isn't your thing, and maybe you'll discover that through your journey. But the more you research and the more you put that time in, even if it's 5 minutes a day, the more you'll discover that.
Oh, JP, this is huge, and I know that you mentioned we don't know what's going to inspire or what might motivate or one word or sentence, but I have a feeling that whoever's watching or listening to this is being inspired as we speak, which I'm so honored again to have you on this. This is huge information. But thanks for sharing. It's not easy to talk about challenges and hardships, but again, we all have them. And whether it's in the past or in the future, no one's exempt. And the fact that you're humble and honest enough to really showcase that, JP, it speaks volumes about you and your character. So I can't appreciate that enough, and thank you enough. I do want to shift gears onto a slightly softer question, if that's all right. So we made it through that, everybody. But,
thank you. Thanks for indulging me there, guys.
Thank you. But this is actually one of my favorite questions, and this ends up being the travel back in time question. So if you could travel back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice or two, any age range, what would you say to young JP?
Well, I don't want to make a joke out of it, but I do think that I think what I would have done is nothing. Okay. Right? I think I would have done nothing different. I would have embraced all the bad that led me to the good. Because I truly believe that without terrible experiences, you will never understand the goodness and the beauty of when they are good and great. And so there is a yin and yang in life, and if I could go back in time, I would absolutely not have changed my health condition. I would have not changed when I was on the street and I was collecting cans out of the garbage cans. I would not have changed anything. I am now educated. I went back to high school as an adult. I went to college. I have my associate's degree in business with a minor in marketing. I have been a top-tier pro realtor for the past almost 15 years.
Huge.
Yes, there was some intermediate times because I started in the high end and went into learning how to be a distressed property expert, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so it isn't just, pick a path and be successful. Like, it's pick a path and hang on for the ride and just do your best, right? But always push yourself. And I would say, yeah, if I could go back in time, I would just, I'd smile a little bit more, probably.
Okay. But I love that you said that, though, JP, because what you say, and I think everybody's going to resonate and appreciate with that, is, everything that we go through in life, the books you read, the conversations we have, the travel that we do, the hardship, and the positive nature, it makes us who we are.
That's right.
And so I love that you own that and that you respect that. The fact that you're saying smile more, I think we can all take a piece of that advice.
Right.
Everybody should smile more. I think
Right.
that's really good. So, but hopefully that hits everybody and there's some reflection on your life. Hopefully you're asking yourselves these same questions and hopefully you're in line with JP. I don't know. Not everybody's on that level, but
Right.
It's really cool stuff, JP. I love that. So I do want to go into actually a huge topic in this particular series. The viewers and the listeners of this particular series, they love to know what the Titans are doing to grow their mind.
Great.
So it's the feeding in the mind question. Really, if you could look back at books that you have read or are reading, podcasts you've listened to or are currently listening to, or coaches or motivational speakers or anything along those lines, social media influences,
Sure.
How are you feeding your mind, JP?
Well, great question. I have a systematic way that I do pay attention to. Now, over the years, I have learned a lot from various people from even different offices. So I have drank the Kool-Aid for Berkshire Hathaway, for whomever out there is a Berkshire lover.
Oh, that's some good Kool-Aid.
Right?
That's good stuff.
Right. So we are considered now, we are looking at this brand being the forever brand, and we would love to basically culture a group of realtors that truly are a much higher level of real estate experience. Now, all offices will promise tools and all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
But I do think that I have definitely drank the Kool-Aid for Berkshire. But in terms of tools over the years, there's just a few guys. So technology offers, we talked before about YouTube and things like that. You can Google so much off YouTube now.
You can learn a ton like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's agents out there giving advice, and there's people giving advice all over the place, and it's just an intense amount of information. And some of it's really accurate, but how do you decipher which is best? And how do you choose what's going to belong to you? Well, I just say start with one thing and don't skip all over. I talk to new agents and they're like, oh, did you hear about, I just heard about geofarming. Any idea of geofarming? Okay, so I got a new agent. She says, I think that's the path I'm going to take. I'm like, well, you're taking a path that I've never heard of, so that's scary for me because I have no way to train you. Maybe you can train me.
Sure.
Right? I'm open to it.
Right.
But some of the things that I did, we could go onto our phone and we can pull up YouTube and apps and all these things now. And there's ways that you can kind of create this accountability for yourself if you're very structured, which all the agents that I've met rarely do find one that's super structured.
It's tough.
Right?
It's rare.
It is. And so I hired a coach in the beginning.
That.
It was by referral only.
Okay.
He's still out there, still doing his thing. And I keep hearing there was Brian Buffini for a while, and now there's this new guy that's all of a sudden. But there's always every decade there's a new guru.
There's always something,
right,
yeah.
right. And so by referral taught me a lot because it was accountability. It's the coach that calls you, or you get a call from somebody twice a week, and they're saying, "What did you do?" And you're all freaked out because you went to your family's wedding and all this stuff, and you're busy, and you're like, "Oh my God, I do nothing. What am I supposed to tell this person?" Right?
Wow, yeah.
But then you eventually get into it, and you're like, "Oh my God, I got to be accountable. I'm paying $5,000 a year. I got to do something here."
Right.
And so I did. I started following the scripts and started doing the stuff, and it was very effective for me.
Love that.
But I did I eventually evolved where then it became my own style, my own personality. But I had to start somewhere.
Okay.
So for me, by referral only was a very powerful tool.
Love it.
And then I started looking at different things like I said earlier, GSD mode.
Yeah.
Things like that. I listen to pro realtors who give advice and things. So I always want to know what my competitors are doing out there.
Okay.
It's hard for a guy to listen to a guy or girl to listen to what their competitors are doing, I think.
Yeah.
Because you want to think that your stuff is the maximum of what you can do, right? And how could anybody be doing better than me, of course? But really, they are. They're out there doing big things, and they're doing fantastic things because they're looking at it from a different perspective. And so you've got to see what the other guys are doing. You've got to ask questions. You know, when you've got pro agents in your office, go speak with them. You know, they may not have the time, so just get enough time to get something out of them. Just a few bits is all you need to take something away, because really the attention span of a human, as you know, is very small. Anyway, I'm hoping that you go through this whole show with us and explore it, because it can lead to some pretty successful things if you listen and pay attention to what we're talking about.
Agreed.
But you really do. So even like Keller Williams, Gary Keller, the story behind Gary Keller is like when his friends were going and being, you know, PhDs and stuff, he wanted to be a real estate pro, right? And so he focused on real estate. You can actually get your master's degree in real estate. If you didn't know that, you can actually go to a 4-year college degree and get a master's in real estate. That is a beautiful thing.
Right.
Or you can go to the 8 or 12-week course online, or through your local class, which they hold in some cases and not all in some cities.
Sure.
And you can take an 8 to 12-week course and pay very little bit of money and become a licensed realtor within a matter of a couple months.
Wow.
It's up to you how far you want to go, right? And I look at all that and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to compartmentalize that into Gary Keller's experience, where, you know, he wanted to build this thing and he wrote these beautiful books. His model has been powerful. He's grown a massive company, which now you've got massive big companies, Berkshire, Remax, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, all these big players trying to like dominate the markets, right?
Sure.
Like we want market share, we want to get these agents, like how to recruit them, how do we get people like JP over here? I get it all the time, right?
All this contact information is listed, but I don't know if that's
you
going to happen.
can call me, but good luck. I got the Berkshire behind me, so it's got the power.
Love it.
But it's a beautiful thing what Gary built. So I read Millionaire Real Estate Agent. You guys should read that.
Okay.
The One is another one, his most recent book. Very powerful, very structured, very systemized, okay? So he talks about scripts, how you approach people for sell by owner, anybody, right? How to do it, how to say it, practice. Role play with your friends and family. They would love it. Come on. And then go through the steps. It teaches you how to build like a business plan and how to nurture that business plan. It even talks about databases, and it really walks you through. If you're paying attention, if you really are, like there's Maslow's hierarchy chart, you know that, that's like the health and well-being of a human structure, like from basic needs, right? From food as being your basic need, right? And in health, and in like it's like a pyramid. Maslow's hierarchy is like, in my interpretation, I believe, is basic functions all the way up to high society.
Okay.
Right? Like what it takes to be from ground level, from basic nutrition, all the way to a higher tier of level, of human level, right?
Cool.
What you expect for yourself. But you look at that, and Gary Keller's book does really dynamically teach you these things, right? And there's a lot of books out there you can read. I mean, how to be the best real estate agent, like all these things out there. But again, I'm always paying attention to the highest and best.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not going to read I'm not going to read a book that was written by a real estate agent that was a realtor for 5 years and then failed and now is writing a book. I'm going to be reading a book that's written by somebody who built a powerful business and still runs that powerful business, and consults on high levels too. So I think that's what you got to pay attention to, is pay attention to that. To you know, lots of people that say you those that can't do teach, right? And so you get a guy that did get into real estate, and now he's like, well, I'm going to teach everybody because I'm going to make more money selling books and doing, you know, presentations, and consulting people. I don't know. I really would rather be trained by somebody who's actively doing it every day.
Well said.
And that they're a performer in their craft, whether they be an actress, an actor, or whatever, or a real estate broker. But again, we are sales professionals, and to be the best, you want to pay attention to the best. And that's why this show is awesome, because you're speaking to the best. I mean, I've committed to being the highest level I can achieve in this industry. And now I'm a partial owner broker of a very elite brokerage, and so with a very powerful reputation already preceding my tenure. So I'm very thankful, but it does come down to pay attention to the good ones. Pay attention to the guys that are honest, the guys that have ethics, the guys that really, really stand strong in their communities, that are a participant in their communities. And there's team leaders and there's people out there that you could look up to, but oftentimes you need to pay attention to, you know, is it arrogance or is it confidence with them?
Fine line.
Right? And if it's arrogance, then it's them being the big shot because they've hit some high levels because the economy's great,
Sure.
houses are selling, things are moving quick, and so they can show well, right? They can shine like a beautiful coin in that economic situation. But those team leaders, when the economics change, you better be ready to work and adapt quickly to be the best in any market.
Wow. JP, this has been huge takeaways,
Thank you.
literally from start to finish. I know everybody's, ears are burning and their minds are melting. There's just so much good information. I'm going to have a list in the comments down below, just as everybody knows, so that you can follow along and feed your mind the same way that this man is doing. JP,
Thank you.
it has been absolutely incredible. I want to wrap this whole thing up with a final question.
Sure.
And this ends up being a quote.
Okay.
Or a mantra that you live by that sums you up as a man, as a professional. What's that look like for JP Speers?
All right, I'll tell you. You'll have heard this many, many ways,
Okay.
right? But you'll have never heard it the way I'm about to tell you.
All right.
Right?
Listen up, everybody. Here we go.
And I'm going to tell you this because I'll tell you where it came from. So, as I was a young man in my early 20s, close to 20, we'll just be realistic.
Yeah.
I'm causing trouble. My brother had left the planet a few years prior. I was kind of a little bit in that mode of like, let me be a little bit of an anarchist at my age, right? I'm sitting in the back of a police car, and I'm telling this guy that I'm from Kansas and I'm a good young man. And he looks back at me and he goes, young man, it's guilt by association. The environment that you're around is where you are, okay? That's why you're in my car. And he didn't have to say much beyond that, obviously, because I was in trouble, and I was in the back of his police car. Now, I have never had felonies, okay?
Yeah. Let's be clear,
just be
everybody.
very clear.
Yeah. Good point.
I did misbehave a little bit at that point in my life, and again, I wouldn't have changed it for nothing. A couple years later, after I got my bearings, right, I had deciphered that thing where he said, it's guilt by association to, you guys ready?
Right.
Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future.
Wow.
And you have never heard it that way. I promise. You have heard it many ways. It sounded like you just heard it.
I love that.
Right?
I love the way
But
you said
show
that.
me your friends, and I'll show you your future. And so ever since that moment hit me, when I came up with that saying, when I realized, like, okay, what does this really mean to me? It's my friends. It's my future. It's everything to me. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. And that is exactly what it takes to be successful in this life.
Huge. Well, JP, I think that sums you up perfectly when it comes down to it. Your knowledge, your basis, your integrity, the legacy that you've continued to lay in this marketplace as a true professional. I'm pretty proud and happy to say that I'm your friend, JP.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
it's
very
an honor
much.
to have you. You're
Thank
a true
you.
real estate titan, my
I
friend.
appreciate it.
Everybody, thank you so much for your time and attention. As always, your love and support. If you like what we're doing here with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to throw us a like on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, all the rest of the sites. If you're an audio file, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast. Live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care.
Thank you.